Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right? You're eating healthy, you're exercising, but you're still fighting with that stubborn fat, feeling tired all the time? It is so frustrating. But what if the problem isn't you? What if it's the very health foods you've been told to eat?
Well, today we're going to do a little investigating. We're going to pull back the curtain and see how the food industry uses really clever marketing, words like all natural or low fat, to cover up products that might actually be doing a number on your metabolic health from the inside out.
And the main culprit behind all of this confusion actually has a name. It's a marketing trick known as the health halo. It is literally the reason we get fooled into thinking we're making a great choice when, well, we might be doing the exact opposite.
So how does this actually work? Well, the health halo effect is when just one positive claim, let's say made with whole grains, casts this imaginary halo over the entire product. It makes us totally overlook the bad stuff, like, say, a ridiculous amount of sugar. It tricks our brains into thinking, hey, this is good for me, even when it's just packed with ingredients that can stall our metabolism.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to start by really exposing this health halo trap. Then we'll unmask 4 major suspects that are probably hiding in your kitchen right now. And don't worry, we'll finish up by giving you a simple rescue plan to take back control.
All right, our first suspect. This one has been the poster child for a healthy breakfast for like decades: fruit juice. We all think of it as a fresh, healthy start to the day, a big boost of vitamin C. But what it's actually doing to our metabolism? Well, that's a very different story.
See, we get marketed this idea of a glass of sunshine and vitamins. But the reality for our body is a concentrated blast of sugar. When you juice a fruit, you strip away all the fiber. And that's the crucial part that slows down how your body absorbs sugar. What you're left with is basically sugar water, which, metabolically speaking, isn't all that different from a can of soda.
And because there's no fiber, that liquid sugar hits your system like a freight train. It triggers this huge insulin spike from your pancreas. And all that fructose, that can only be handled by your liver. So when your liver gets totally overloaded, it has one main job to do with all that extra fructose: turn it into fat. This can even lead to serious problems like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, all while that sugar and acid are destroying the good bacteria in your mouth.
Okay, let's move on to our next suspect. This one was born out of that whole anti-fat craze back in the 80s and 90s. Low-fat, flavored yogurt. Fat was suddenly public enemy number 1, and food companies rushed to take it out of everything. But they ran into a pretty big problem. And that problem was flavor. You see, fat is what gives food taste and a satisfying texture. When you take it out, food pretty much tastes like cardboard. So to make these new low-fat products taste good again, what did they do? They replaced the fat with just massive amounts of sugar. That healthy yogurt you're grabbing for breakfast, it could easily have 4 to 6 teaspoons of sugar. That's more than you'd find in a glazed donut. And here is the crucial thing to understand. Healthy dietary fat is not the villain. It's actually essential for things like your hormones, and this is a big one, for satiety. That's the feeling of being full and satisfied. Eating a full-fat yogurt helps you feel full for a lot longer. That sugary, low-fat version, yeah, that can leave you feeling hungry and craving even more sugar in less than an hour. Next up, a food we're constantly told we should eat more of: those so-called healthy whole grains. And we're going to look specifically at the champion of the healthy swap, whole wheat bread. We're told it's way better than white bread, but let's see what the data actually says.
So this chart looks at the glycemic index, which is just a measure of how quickly a food spikes your blood sugar. And what's really surprising is that a lot of commercial whole wheat breads have a glycemic index that's just as high as plain old white bread. They can cause that same rapid spike in glucose and insulin, putting you on that up and down energy roller coaster we all hate. A better choice often is sourdough, where the fermentation process actually helps lower that glycemic hit.
But, beyond just the blood sugar issue, there's another hidden factor here. For a lot of people, even if they don't have celiac disease, the gluten in wheat can cause some low-grade inflammation in the gut, and that can mess with your body's ability to absorb nutrients properly, which just adds another layer of stress to your whole system.
Okay, our final suspect. This one is probably the most controversial of them all, and it is found in almost every single processed food and restaurant kitchen out there: industrial seed oils like soybean, canola, and corn oil. They're often pushed as being heart healthy, but there is a serious debate raging about what they're really doing to us.
Now, the science here is really debated, so let's just look at this impartially. On one side, critics argue these oils are way too high in omega-6 fatty acids, which can drive up inflammation. They're also super processed, using high heat, bleaching, and deodorizing chemicals, which, the argument goes, promotes stress in our cells. But then, on the other side, you have major health organizations like the American Diabetes Association recommending them instead of saturated fats. And there are some big studies that link them to a lower risk of mortality and better blood glucose. It's a very complex picture with no easy answer.
So after hearing all that, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, what on earth am I actually supposed to eat? How do you avoid all these metabolic traps? Well, the answer isn't some new restrictive diet. It's about changing your mindset. It's time to become a food detective.
And the good news is you have all the power here. And your detective toolkit is actually really simple. First step, completely ignore the flashy claims on the front of the box and turn it over. Read the actual ingredients list on the back. Step 2, prioritize real, whole foods. Things that don't even need an ingredients list. And third, take back control by making your own stuff, like salad dressings or sauces. It's way easier than you think, and it takes all the guesswork out of it.
And look, making these changes is way simpler than you might think. Instead of that glass of juice, just eat the whole piece of fruit to get all that amazing fiber. Swap that sugary, low-fat yogurt for some plain, full-fat Greek yogurt and just add your own fresh berries. Instead of a granola that's basically a candy bar in disguise, try some steel-cut oats. See? This isn't about depriving yourself, it's about upgrading your fuel.
By looking past all those shiny health halos and becoming your own food detective, you can ditch the fake healthy foods and start giving your body the real nourishment it needs. You can take back control of your metabolism, your energy, and your health for the long run. All the power you need is right there on the back of the label. The only question is, what are you going to find?